At Cascades, we've carried a deep longing to see our city transformed by the hope and love of Jesus. That vision has shaped who we are, guiding every step, every prayer, and every act of service. And today, we celebrate God's faithfulness in bringing that vision to life.
As a leader, I felt a measure of being like a steward. And it's a steward of what God has done here. Really like knowing our story so that I could actually say, hey, like this is who God has called us to be. And in light of who we're called to be, this is what it looks like moving forward. It started not as actually a church plant. It started as an outreach to children in this Renfrew Heights neighborhood. People would come down here and run this ministry and outreach to the kids in this area. And over time, it like bubbled out into, something more where it was like, hey, these kids got parents. We should consider planting a church in this neighborhood.
In this area, just below 22nd here, it was the Veterans Land Assembly. And that was the project. It was called Renfrew Heights Project. You had to be a war veteran, married, and have 2 children. I think there was also a clause that you had to have 1 dog as well, but that's the way it was. And there was such an enormous amount of children in this area. Our parent church was Central Park Gospel Hall, and they purchased a church from the Second World War. They brought it down here by truck, and that was at 25th. But 3 years later, 1955, they started to have communion here, so they established themselves as a local church. So the work grew from there. These 3 lots that we're sitting on became available, so we put a bid on them. The total price of all 3 together was something like $16,900. And so the city of Vancouver said yes. Some of the people were thinking that maybe the money should be used for missionary endeavors. And the discussion was going back and forth, all good ideas. And then somebody stood up and said, well, we vote on Sunday morning. If we give our money, then we know that we're going to pursue this. And Sunday morning, the big offering happened, and we were able to pursue it.
They had a statement that was part of their constitution. We will gather to worship on Sundays, preach the gospel to young and old, and to teach all that Jesus commands, and to support missionary endeavors. That was kind of like their thing. And to this day, those have been the things that we've sought to focus on.
Well, the word that comes to my mind is children. We had over 240 children come to Cascades. And of course, I was one of them. When I came here, I was living at an aunt's house. I had already had my biological mother and adopted mother, and now my father was looking for his second wife. So when I didn't have a solid foundation, I found here that they loved me. And when missionaries came to town, when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, they would invite me to their house to meet the missionaries. And it was just ingrained into me, the whole idea of maybe I could serve someday on the mission field. And when I finally graduated, I was a full-fledged printer. 9 months later, I got married, and my wife and I, Gloria, we went to Quebec as a printing missionary.
When I came back from Quebec, I didn't know anybody, and I thought, I need to get to know people. So I started inviting all the moms to come to this Bible study, and today there's 3 of us from the original group.
Ladies that were home found a safe place to do life together, to study the scriptures and pray together, support each other through all the ups and downs.
There was a mixture of ages. which is so great because we can learn so much from each other.
We're all uniquely created. And I mean, we learned that in our marriage, that we are in many ways total opposites, but that doesn't mean we can't work together toward goals. It develops an attitude of humility. You're looking to be learning from other people. And Jesus uses other people to teach you things about yourself and about himself.
Sunday morning you say, bonjour, comment ça va? Or, ole que tal? Or, hi, how are you? And then you go sit down. But in a home group, you're sitting down there face to face. And, well, you know, I did have trouble in this area. And bang, you got 2 or 3 people there that in the small group that will say, well, why don't you try this? Or why don't you do that? Or I'll come over another time and we'll sit down and we'll talk about it.
We had Sunday school, of course. We had DVBS. We had Upward here, Anvil Island, Morning Star, Emmeline.
We knew about Alpha, but just being a part of it, it was very exciting.
You sat in groups. It was a safe group. It was a group that you could talk to.
Just about exploring Christianity. Take a look at it, see what you think.
Bringing on a teacher to unpack the scriptures on a regular basis for Brethren churches, that was really new in the 70s. But since then, it's been something we've been committed to as a church.
When I meant to the leadership that I'd like to go into full-time Christian work, I had to quit my job, and they supported us. And I knew that there was a church behind me.
One of the first things that I had to learn was to have faith. We were commended from 5 or 6 different churches, but that meant they would pray for you. It didn't mean that they would send you money. And so that was something I had to learn, to trust the Lord. And in all these years, we have never asked for money. We've asked the Lord.
Praise God.
And some months it's been little, some months it's been way too much. The Lord has never, ever let us down.
70 years ago, around a campfire at Anvil Island Bible Camp, this little 10-year-old kid that had gone through, I won't use the word, gone through a lot of problems, accepts the Lord. And he was with me. God helped me, because all the changes in my life, it was rough. It was difficult, but I always turned back. So God uses everything. The people at Cascades always supported me.
Every summer, people from Cascades would serve up at Anvil, and they would send campers up as well. And so when I was finally old enough to go, I was one of those campers too. And I didn't want to go because I knew I would have this confrontation with Jesus over my way of life and what he wanted for my life. But what I did find was all these different people up at camp were incredibly kind to me. It softened my heart, my resistance to hearing from the Lord, because his people were being so kind to me. And then I realized as time went on, I'm like, I know the gospel story. I know what Christ has done for me. I know who God is, and God knows me wholly, completely, but I don't know him. So I felt this conviction over all of that, but also the love of God in that place. There was this delight that I had, and then I thought to myself, well, I feel so alive when I'm with you. How do I help others encounter you? How do I help others make sense of who you are? Our vision is to see our city renewed. And the way that happens is by leading people to become fully devoted followers of Jesus and his way. So when people encounter Jesus and then embrace his way, they become these agents of renewal in our city.
God said, make disciples of all nations, going into all the world. Well, we're in Vancouver, we're in Burnaby, we're in Westminster. So let's be there. That's where God wants us.
The city's out there, and we are to invite the city. I love welcoming people. I just shake their hand and I hold it. I said, welcome. What a privilege.
We want to be a space, a community where when you come, you encounter the living God who renews, and it changes you like a stream. There's this real picture of like God's presence having cascaded down. You encounter him, you can be molded by him, you can be led by him. We don't think that the renewal of our city happens by ourselves. It won't even happen just churches on our own. It's going to be God's people and different organizations as well, working together towards that common vision.
Fully devoted is a journey that we haven't arrived at our destination yet. We're still in process, but we're moving.
The church actually is the vehicle or the space in which people are meant to encounter the living God. And that happens as we gather. It happens as we share life together in our homes. It happens as we serve our community. That has been central from the beginning. But even moving forward, that has to be central too. We are entering into a different season. Our kids' ministry is growing, and we need to provide more leadership and vision and direction there. And so we want to hire a next generation director to oversee that ministry and really help kids encounter Jesus and see how they can follow him. One of the things we started to do really kind of as a response to the pandemic is we started prayer walking in the neighborhood and down streets like 22nd or 25th or down to local school or wherever it may be. And one of the prayers we've prayed is like, Lord, would you draw people to yourself and use us to be part of that process for them? And so when I see someone and I meet them and they are from this area, I'm like, oh, that's an answer to that very prayer. We've been just sensing the Lord wanting us to make room for him, make room for others. So part of that has just been like a real tangible thing we've experienced with the foyer where it gets cramped really fast. It's not very large. And so we learned a few years ago that the leaders of Cascades actually had this vision to do this some 20 years ago. To some extent, we picked it back up and said, hey, what would it look like to turn that foyer into a space where people can connect, where you can move from stranger to guest to friend and ultimately to family. We want to be a church that is a gift to our community. Even if the people don't necessarily know Jesus, they haven't embraced his way, we just want to be a gift, and we see that being really central to who we're called to be. And so moving forward, we are going to want to look at ways we do that. Adopt a school, or come alongside and work with Journey Home or another organization to support refugees, or, do different work that pursues reconciliation with our Indigenous neighbors. Those types of things are really important to us as a church. And in many ways, it's like we've been building to that. But I think this next, 5 years will be more so about, okay, let's get people into roles where we actually are present physically and supporting that, along with the prayer and financial support.
When you think 70 years and churches are closing, a lot of churches are closing. It's sad, but Cascades is moving ahead.
Every act of sacrifice, of worship, of trust and entrusting ourselves to him, he's seen every single one of those moments, and it's brought him great joy. Thank you for obeying him and trusting him. I want to graciously but still confidently say there's more for us, that he's not done in what he's called us to. And it may cost, it will very likely will cost us, but it will be so good that when you look at the end of your life and you stand before Jesus, you'll actually say, it was good. It was good. It was worth it. I want to be able to say that, but I don't want it just to be me. I want us to be able to say that as a people.
God's work in our city is far from finished. We believe He is still moving, still healing, and still renewing lives. So we look ahead, trusting that as we follow Jesus, He will continue to transform our city.